Yeah, so DB, you're very lucky, mate, because I would have battered you around Brampton.
Not sure about that. We'll have to see next time. Welcome to the No Ifs, Puts and Bogies podcast. We are a no-nonsense, straight talking golf podcast discussing all the hot topics in the world of golf. This podcast is brought to you in association with Barretto Golf, a stylish, affordable golf clothing brand. Please visit barrettogolf.com. That's BARRETO golf.com for all the latest offers. This podcast is also brought to you on behalf of the Golfer Gang Network. Please go check out some of the other golfing podcasts. And without further ado, I've got a bit of an announcement to make. We are taking the podcast in a different direction. Young Mr. Harry Clark has decided to pursue some other opportunities away from Barretto Golf and the No Ifs, Puts and Bogies podcast following his recent engagement announcement. So we wish him all the very best for his future endeavours and what I'm sure he'll go on to do big things. He's done some cracking work for us over the duration of the time that he's worked for us. So we wish him very well and we will be sure to stay in touch. He may even make a guest appearance again in the future. Who knows? But it gives me great pleasure to introduce maybe our new host. We are in contract negotiations at this stage.
Yeah, he's on trial.
He's a big beast. He knows absolutely nothing about golf. So this could be very interesting.
That is yet to
he
be
goes
seen.
by the name of Ollie Wilton, aka OW, aka ODub. Dub Dub. Welcome to the podcast.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you? Just want to say thanks for having me. Harry was a trailblazer in the podcast hosting golf world, and I hope to follow in his footsteps. I'm happy to be here. On the comment about me not knowing anything about golf, I'm a studious learner, and I've got a few facts and figures behind me to back that up.
Look,
Yeah, I think. Go on. I was going to say, I think we've recruited you well. So I know that you've got a lot of enthusiasm and you're prepared to do, let's say, more research than the pair of us do before a podcast. So I think you are going to shock a few people tonight, or on this podcast, shall I say, because we've already heard some of your research. So, yeah, fair play to you, mate. Go well, say what you think, and we'll see how we get on.
Appreciate it, guys. Happy to be here. Looking forward to it.
Okay, so over to you. You're the host.
Well, as an avid listener of the If Putts and Bogies podcast, I got it right. I know where I am. I was really looking forward to getting an update on the battle between the two Barretto brothers on the fairways and greens of golf courses. So guys, fill me in. How did it go?
Well, the unfortunate news is the match unfortunately didn't go ahead. I was actually very ill for the first time in like 15 years. So I was
been on death's door,
unable to participate. I'm going to throw it out there. It's AB's fault. He was definitely scared. So he recruited me for a corporate football match last Wednesday, in which I played a full 90 minutes for the first time, again, in about 15 years. Did score the opening goal for our team. Slightly non-golf related, but we'll just throw it. It was outside the box. So, yeah, we got absolutely battered. We weren't very well organised, were we, AB? But I have to say, following day, I couldn't move. I was ill. Didn't eat much. Actually had some big weekend plans with the family and some birthday celebrations, belated birthday celebrations, which I was due to have, which unfortunately I couldn't partake in either. So yeah, I've been out of action in terms of everything, not just golf, until about Wednesday or Thursday last week, which was a real shame. But I can see the concern on your face, ODub. I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm back on the mend and hope to be back
This is
hitting
all new
golf balls.
information to me, but so I'm glad you're feeling better. I didn't realise you were unwell.
Oh, mate, honestly, I didn't move from bed between Friday and Monday.
So this isn't last weekend, it was the weekend before. So it was a fortnight ago we should have played.
Yeah.
So is there another date penciled in that the fans from the 9 countries that listen can eagerly anticipate?
Yeah, we will be looking to get another date in the diary. It'll probably have to be a Sunday moving forward. But stay tuned. We will be back. We will have the match, and I will prevail as the winner, no doubt.
I guess one of the last times you played each other was when the 3 of us were on the greens.
Let's just remind us all how that went, Odub, if you'd like to give us a quick breakdown.
Well, as a non-golfer with a plus 50 handicap, I did not come last. And that's all I'll say at this point.
Who came last?
So hold on. So let's just set the scene a bit. So this would have been, it was a couple of years ago, and it was a lovely sunny Sunday on Skegness Promenade, and the 3 of us did mini golf, but mini golf on, first of all, on grass, wasn't it? So it was proper, like, sort of greens.
Yeah,
so we did that, and
you were
lining it. Yeah, and then we did another one on proper mini golf, and I think, in fairness, you did beat me both times.
The Arnold Palmer Classic mini golf, wasn't it? The big man opened it himself. He wasn't there at the time, but
I'm sure he has very fond memories of Skegness Seaside.
He was looking down on us, if he's still alive, which I'm not too sure.
He's not alive.
R.I.P. Send one up to Arnold Palmer.
No, but I've got to say, Odub, I was actually fairly impressed with you that day. You read the greens exceptionally well. Your technique.
You have potential, mate.
You've got a bit about you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've got all the tools, as they say. I've got all the tools.
Have you ever tried like pitch and putt, or
have I tried it? I went and did a pitch and putt Hailing Island with an ex-girlfriend of mine, but I don't like to bring that up too much. Broken heart. I went with her and a gran, and I did come last that day.
Oh my God. This is the type of content that is going to come from our boy Odub.
So the podcast has taken a slight turn in a different direction.
Yeah, what's going on here? Right.
The chemistry will grow as we move forward, and I think this
unlike me and my ex-girlfriend, shall we say?
Say that again.
Unlike me and my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, so match didn't go ahead between me and AB. We will be actively trying to rearrange the match head to head. We'll try and film some content, and we'll see where we end up.
There's rumours that you might be considering joining Brampton in the near future.
Look, at this stage, I can't make any comments.
Is that not a bit of a distance for you?
It's about an hour's drive. It's about half an hour to my current golf club. I don't wish to make any comments on the status of my membership at this stage.
Well, they'd be lucky to have you, I'm sure.
Oh, without doubt.
I'm sure it's only an hour away, so word would have reached about DB and his recent competition win.
Absolutely. And AB's got a little group of mates that play regularly. Apparently, I would be part of the signing on bonus is a free breakfast every week.
Oh, nice.
From one of his playing partners. And AB actually offered to pay for my beers every week in the post round. So there's a few
all part of the recruitment strategy, isn't it?
There's a few incentives up for grabs.
AB, you're not concerned that you're just going to become DB's brother again and lose your AB title?
No, mate. No,
look, you're the big man.
We're an odd number, so we always play as a 3 and a 2. So
yeah, same.
If DB was to join, we'd have 2 3 balls, and then we would. It would just be good, and we'd be able to do some more content for the Loretta Golf channel. So there's a lot of incentives there for DB to consider if he decides he does want to leave North Mids. But once again, all will be revealed in due course. But anyway, I think so. The match didn't happen. We will rearrange it, and yeah, we'll keep everybody up to date when I beat DB.
Have you ever beaten DB before?
Once or twice, yeah. Most of the time, he would beat me. We've had a lot of close games. I wouldn't say he's often thrashed me, but he has beaten me more than I've beaten him.
I would say, generally speaking, I would consider myself a little bit more composed than AB on the golf course, which tends to see me over the line in the times where we've played previously. But a few off days when we've played. There was one where I filled in for your golf day last year where I was an absolute stink bomb.
Yeah.
There was,
so I would say I'd agree. Yeah, you do show a bit more composure more often than not than I do, but you do also get way more luck than what I do, which is partly why I end up getting rattled a lot. So I think that we've said it before on a previous pod, but I think we could do like an hour-long podcast on some of our matches where DB's had absolutely ridiculous strokes of luck, basically. And yeah, maybe we'll put that in the pipeline to record one of those in the future.
Yeah, no, that'd be good. I do have one quick question, and I'm sure Alex's answer might be longer than DB's. But if you could take one aspect from each other's game and add it to your own, what would that be? I'll probably start with Dan, as that might be shorter answer.
Well, I would personally say my weakest part of my game is probably one of his best parts of his game that I've seen, and I know that he previously has practiced a lot of it at home. So I would take AB's putting. He's got a little putting mat at home, which he used to use religiously. And
I've had a go on it.
There you go, yeah. And
I felt its aura and power as I stood above it.
He tends to be a lot sharper around the greens than what I am. It's probably the weakest part of my game. I would consider myself a fairly consistent ball striker, and my approach play has improved a lot over the last 6 months, which is where I've been picking up my shots on my handicap. But my putting is still probably where I lose most of my shots. Too many 3 putts, occasionally 4 putts, are not enough opportunities to give myself a 1 putt. Or even the ones, sorry, that's wrongly worded. The opportunities that I have for a 1 putt where I'm like, I've had a good approach shot, I don't capitalize on them enough. So they still end up being 2 putts. So I would take AB's putting.
Excellent. How about you, AB?
Oh, that's very kind, DB. I would say from DB's game, I would take, I guess, mindset or mentality. I don't know which one would be the right word there.
Mentality monster.
It's in a weird way. When I play golf, I'm always worried about everybody else. I mean, it sometimes distracts me a lot. Whereas this guy only has blinkers for himself and doesn't give a shit about anybody else. And sometimes it'll often mean he'll take a putt while someone else is lining up a putt and playing a shot from the fairway when someone else is about to play, just because he's just dialed into what he's doing, and et cetera, et cetera. But it pays off because he does have a lot of success around the golf course, and it works when we play games against each other. So, yeah, that's what I would take from his game.
Great. I would say on that as well, not to blow my own trumpet, but from a mentality point of view, if I hit a bad shot, I don't get very flustered by it these days. So I've often found greens from wrong fairways or got myself back into a really good position and whatnot. There's actually one on Instagram, I think, where we played a match, AB, or a 3-holer, and I was actually on the wrong fairway and then put it to about 4 foot. As a good example, we can post the link somewhere, perhaps, or repost it. But yeah, I wouldn't disagree with what AB said there. Very kind words.
Well, that's
great
what I like to
question.
do. I like to
Great
bring
question,
people
man.
together.
Good stuff. Okay, so let's move on from our match that didn't happen. And the next topic we've got to discuss this evening is the fact that I've got myself a new driver. So, Ollie, a few weeks ago when you were a listener, you would have heard the episode that we did about me getting fitted for a new set of irons.
Great listen. Really interesting as well. For a non-golfer, I found it fascinating, the inner workings of a golf fitting.
Yeah, good. And that was the idea, and that was why we chose to do it. And I've done a similar process to purchase a new driver. So I went to the same place. So I booked another appointment, went and saw the same chap, Matthew, over at Golfer's Choice in Delapre in Northampton. And yeah, it was just as fascinating, really, as the irons were. So to start off, I go in and we agree which ball he recommended to me last time. So that was the Pro V1 X Velocity. And we said last time it was because of the spin that ball generates. So hopefully I'll start using that to my advantage soon on the course. But we figured we'd do the same with the driver fitting. So we started using that ball and then hitting my own driver. Now, my own driver, right? We again said it before on the previous one. I use a set of Yonex. So Yonex is the brand. Typically, would be associated with sports like tennis and badminton, typically, but they do have the odd, golf equipment that they make. And so my driver, it's actually fixed. So I've had to just use it. I've had to just get on with it. It's quite a big head. And not that much launch angle on it. So I've got used to it, and I've used it for 4 years, and I've got used to it. And I guess the way that I set up for my tee shots, it basically leads to me always having a bit of a fade. So a fade is essentially a polite way of saying I slice the ball with my driver. So sometimes now more recently, I'd say within the last year and a half or so, it's been deliberate from me because I've figured I'm always slicing my drive. So I'll just set up in that way to sort of control it so that at least if I do slice it, I'm aiming far enough right to get it back into the fairway. And so what we did in the driver fitting was try and find a driver that will sort of counteract that and try and neutralize that element of the drive so that when I do have a bad one, shall we say, instead of it going sailing out of bounds to the left of the fairway, I can try and hit it straighter and higher more often than I currently do with my existing driver. Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, perfect sense. I know what a fade is, and I played Tiger Woods PGA Golf 2022.
Yeah. So for me, being left-handed,
I've got a question for you, actually, Alan. So,
go on.
Do you think that prior to your club fitting, so you were obviously using the Yonex, you said it's got the heads fixed in, you can't adjust it and whatnot.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're playing over the course of the 4 years, inevitably, somewhere along the lines, your technique would have changed. Do you think that your technique adapted to the club, so to speak? So you were doing things potentially that were less by the book to adapt to a club that wasn't suited to you, rather than trying to gain what would be a more perfect textbook technique?
Yeah, great question. So I would say no. So what I would explain, or how I would describe it in my 4 years of playing, is I've not had any sort of coaching in terms of holding a driver and the sort of setup. I've watched YouTube. Everyone watches YouTube these days. So I've seen, how Rick Shields will set up his driver and recommend it, and, other guys that do that sort of content. But I basically would have started in a kind of a cricket stance, right? So I'd have been really square on, and then when my club is coming through, it's my club head is open basically, which is why I constantly with the driver end up slicing it. And so when you're square on and you realize I'm slicing it all the time, you're currently aiming for sort of the middle of the fairway. So when you slice it, it's never going to hit the fairway because it's always going to veer off if you're starting it straight. So what I've adapted to over that period of time is opening my stance a bit and typically aiming for like the right-hand side of the fairway so that when I do connect with it well, it will fade in. So it would typically go outside the fairway and curl back in and hit the middle of the fairway. And sometimes it will hit the middle and bounce a bit left, and you hope it sort of stays into the fairway. Sometimes it will roll off. But I would generally say I've adapted my technique to counter or predict basically that I'm going to slice it. And then, if I'm aiming wide enough right, I'm going to get the result of it being in the fairway still. So with all that in mind, I got absolutely hammered in fitting my technical flaws. So I think I at the time, it was a couple of weeks ago now, DB, I sent you a list of about 6 or 7 bullet points of what he recommended that I needed to do to get better results. So unlike with the iron fitting, right, I had a really good setup, consistent setup, but I was basically hitting the ball really low and not with much spin. So he could recommend a good club that would help me improve that. So I could have the same setup, but basically the club heads would give me more launch angle and more spin. With a driver, there's not much tech you can do to sort of improve my technical flaws, is basically how he described it. So he said that the ball was too far ahead in my stance, so it was too close to my front foot. It should have been back a little bit. My shoulders were too open. I needed to close them and square off a bit more. I needed to have more width in my swing and have a bigger backswing. I needed to rotate more with my body because my swing was all arms. And then in terms of looking at the data on the screen, every time I was hitting the ball, apparently the club face was like on a downward angle. So that's why, again, a lot of my drives are fairly like low compared to others. I don't get much height on the drives. So there's probably loads more. But basically, the long and the short of it was, he was like, there's not much a new driver is going to be able to do in terms of improving your technique. He recommended I go and get some lessons to improve my technique. But alas, I wanted a new driver. So I said, yeah, mate, I understand. And I'm happy to sort of work on these sort of things, but I can't really use this one anymore. I want to just buy a new driver. So basically, they offer 2 left-handed drivers at this store. And one of them, they didn't have the head for. I don't know what had happened to it, but he couldn't find the head. So I effectively swung one club for about an hour, and that obviously I ended up buying that one. But unlike the iron fitting, when I hit a few different brands, a few different types of club, this driver was like, look, it's going to be better than what you've got, so just get used to this. And basically what we've concluded is the driver's got a bit more of a distinction on the launch. So it says it's the same degree as my current driver, but it can't be, because the Yonex is like pretty flat, whereas I bought a Ping G430, right, and the angle was like, it's a proper angle, so I should in time get a lot more height on the ball. And it's adjustable, so it's come with a little screwdriver, and I could adjust it myself, but it has a weight on it. So I can, at the moment, the weight is on a draw bias, it's called. So it's basically because I'm constantly slicing the ball, he's put a weight on it to force my swing into trying to hit draws. So basically, I have to try and adapt my sort of swing now and my technique so that I counteract the fade that I typically get and use the club. And then what should happen is it neutralizes and ideally just goes straight. It's basically the logic. But
I have to say, I don't know how much I buy into all that, because I also have similar issues, and I also have my Stealth 2 driver, which I was fitted for. Similar issues with the fade / slice, and the weight is heavily set to a draw. And I would go as far as to say, I don't think I've ever hit anything remotely close to a draw in my life. And it has probably straightened me up a little bit. But that's probably more as a result of the lessons that I've had. But yeah, the miss is definitely still a heavy slice. And I'm not really sure that the weight in the club actually helps me that much. But time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it remains to be seen, because I collected it last Tuesday.
Yeah.
Last Thursday. So I basically, as we know on the pod, I play every Saturday morning. So I collected it on Thursday. Didn't get an opportunity to go out on Friday and practice or even go to the driving range. So I rocked up at 7 a.m. on Saturday, and luckily was there in enough time. I hit 10 balls on the range. I hit 10 drives. 7 of them were actually not bad. 3 of them were not good. But that was a decent ratio out of 10 to have a little bit of confidence going on to the first tee. And I had all of this sort of analysis of my technique in my head, and I was really fired up. And I teed up on 1, and I piped it 257 yards straight down the middle of the fairway. And I was absolutely feeling like king of the world. And I thought, this club is going to take me and my handicap to where I want it to be. And I was marching down that fairway, and I put the pitching wedge onto the green, and I thought, my driver, my new irons, I'm coming for you. And then I 3-putted. So I started with a 5.
I've just picked up your putting as well, mate.
Yeah. So I 3-putted, and then I've gone on to the second tee, and I've piped one 240 just off in the first cut down the right, but a lot more yards than what I typically would get. And I'm thinking, I've got another little wedge here onto the green, and I'm laughing. And what did I fucking do? Topped it 20 yards into the bunker in front of me. And then
that's golf, isn't it? My last question on the new clubs, because I know you've spoken a lot about it over the last couple of podcasts.
Yeah.
How much of it do you think is a placebo effect? So you just think that you're playing better shots because you've just got
I personally don't buy into that, because the I guess the spec between the 2 sets that I've had. So I'm not slagging Yonex and my previous set off in any way, shape, or form, but they are not renowned as a golf brand. So you can't typically, in this day and age, you can't go to many golf places and purchase that brand of club. And so on a good day, I could hit those really well. And they were a great set of clubs for me to learn on. But I was always sometimes in between yardages. And, I'm just like, if I just had like a better set of clubs, I wouldn't have to hit a 4-iron all the time. I could, drop down to a 6 or a 7 that's a bit easier to swing, and I'd get the same sort of yardage. So now that I've got this new set, brand new Callaway irons and my new driver, I know that even if I mishit it a little bit, it's going to be hopefully a better outcome than what I would be with my previous set. And I'm finding it now. So I've used the irons for 3 rounds, I think, and I've only used my driver on Saturday. And I know some of the drives were tolerable. My fairway percentage was well down. I think I only hit 2 out of 14, which again was to be expected. But I'm going to have to get used to it all. But I think you have to go backwards a bit to go forwards. So Matthew in the shop said, to get used to a driver, it can take you about 3 months. So I'm not expecting my handicap's gone backwards. It's been going backwards all year. One, because we changed membership to a much harder course, and then two, because I've got a whole new bag, and I don't expect it to be going down anytime soon. But if we speak again on this sort of topic in 12 months' time, I would expect to have a much lower handicap than what I do now, because I'll be fully used to that, my new equipment.
Are you going to get some lessons then?
Well, on that point, I'd probably not, because it gets all this information gets too much into your head. And I think if you're going to get lessons, you have to be prepared to do the lessons and then also practice, because it's no good going to a lesson and being told something and then trying to do it real time on a Saturday. And at this point in time, I don't have time to practice. So I like to, and to be honest, I do like to just play rounds, and my practice would be practice rounds. So I did a nice practice round last Wednesday. Unfortunately, I couldn't collect my driver in time, but I did a nice practice round on Wednesday, and my irons were amazing. And you feel no pressure because you're not carding a score. It's just a casual. It was a Wednesday night. I knew I was only going to play 9 holes, so I did that bit of practice. But you don't always get that opportunity. So if I add on lessons, I'll just be on the first tee on Saturday mornings thinking about far too many things, and I'd rather just rock up and have a laugh. And I think naturally, I know enough about sports and I know enough about my own game and my own abilities to get myself to a reasonable handicap under my own sort of knowledge and learnings on the course.
If you wanted to, could you just buy a block of driving lessons off?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
you could. Yeah. So the way lessons work is you could go and see somebody in person at a local club. So every golf club has a professional. So you can go to any golf club in the country and speak to the professional at that club. And then there's things online now. So you can obviously watch videos on social media, but there's also a thing called
Skillist,
an app called Skillist. Yeah. So we know a few PGA pros that are on that. We may even get one of them on to do an episode on that, because it's really interesting, because what you can do is record yourself. So you can go to a local driving range, record yourself and your swing, and you can send them clips. And what they'll do is send it back to you with like on-screen analysis. So it's like
cool.
Like the footage they send back is like watching like sky analysis, for example. Like you get lines drawn across your swing. I've done it a few times when we were sort of, a few guys were helping us out in the early days of the business, and we were helping them out. And I got some good feedback on my swing. And you can always go back and watch those videos. But yeah, just find out what works for you, really. So but in terms of doing specific driving lessons, you can ask your coach whatever you want to work on. So usually it will be in a driving range bay. Sometimes you can book a lesson and go out on the course, and they can sort of caddy for you and give you tips as you go around, that sort of thing. You can book a putting lesson and just go on the putting green and get a lesson in putting. So there's loads of different ways you can get.
I've done all of the above. So yeah. Well, I try and spend a bit of time trying to improve my game. If it's not going well, I get very frustrated with it. Not that I'm, fucking Tiger Woods or anything like that, but I like to sort of hold my own a little bit and be competitive at my level. So if I have a bit of a stinker, it usually kicks me into gear to go work on something. It's often very simple fixes. And just on AB's note about sort of information overload with lessons, I think that's what bad coaches do. They try and turn you into like a PGA pro when really you just want to hit the fucking ball straight. So a couple of the guys that I've been seeing recently and the pro that's at my golf club have been able to break stuff down really simply for me and give me fixes that aren't necessarily perfect, but they correct imperfections, if you will. So it's an imperfection to correct an imperfection, which should just bring me back round to help my game, which I think at our sort of level is what we're looking for really at the end of the day. Just go out, have a bit of a laugh, get round, enjoy it. Obviously, the better things go, generally speaking, you enjoy it a bit more. But, it's one of those, isn't it? But anyways, enough about us.
Yeah.
Let's bring it home, O-Dub. Finish us off with the last bit of news from the golfing world this week.
I was blown away this morning when I opened my Daily Mail to read the news. Mark Darbon has become the R&A chief executive. Do we know what the R&A is?
You're quite right, mate. Yeah.
Who is he?
Well, he's a guy. He was he chief financial officer at Northampton, chief executive?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, good segue there, O-Dub. You need a bit of practice, mate. Remember, you're on trial here, so we're going to have to sharpen this up a bit. But yeah, so basically, the story is Mark Darbon, chief executive of Northampton Saints Rugby Club, for the last, I think, 7 years. I think he was appointed in 2017. He has today left the club and has been appointed CEO of the R&A. So the R&A, O-Dub, stands for the Royal and Ancient Golf Club. And it is one of the...
Of St Andrews.
It's one of the governing bodies in the world of golf, including sort of the professional and the amateur games. So, and as you say, it is headquartered at St Andrews. So St Andrews is the home of golf, where golf was founded. It's still the home of golf. It's still headquarters, as it's known as. And he's left the Saints today to go and head up that organisation. So for me, as a Northampton Saints fan over the last 10 years of living in Northampton, that is an unfortunate departure, because he has been a very good... I've actually met him in person once, and he is a very good businessman, but a businessman that understands sports. So he has been extremely successful in the 7 years that he's been at the Saints. He completely rebooted the culture of the club, and as most people who follow rugby in the UK would know, the Saints won the Premiership about 3 weeks ago, which I was actually at, but that's another point. But so he leaves the reigning champions to join the R&A, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does in order to grow the game. He's also got a lot of other things on his sort of CV. He was involved in the Olympics for 2012 when it was in the UK in London. And he's also helped to grow the Tough Mudder and those type of races, in the past before he joined the Saints. So, yeah, I think it's really exciting for the world of golf to see what he's going to do, especially for us as amateurs. The R&A sort of governs the rules and things like that we have to play by. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Let's see. So now this is your time to shine, pal, because you said that you've done a bit of research. So
I have.
Let's show the listeners what you're made of.
So did you know that his office will overlook the 18th green at St Andrews?
I actually didn't know that.
Well, I didn't know that, but that is a great little fact.
He's 45. He's going to be taking on a 7-figure salary, so I'm told. He does know his golf. He plays off a free handicap, so he's very good at golf. Yeah,
I read earlier that he's a member at Northamptonshire County, which is the best club in my neck of the woods in Northamptonshire, and also in Saunton in Devon, which I believe is also a very prestigious course. I think it must be top 100, I think, in the UK. So, yeah, he obviously knows what he's doing as an amateur. So, yeah, I think I've got nothing but praise for the man. I think he's been a really great CEO of the Saints. And it's going to be really interesting to see what he does for the world of golf.
It's not just golf. AB, I hear you say. He's also represented England at hockey.
Yeah, really?
Has he really?
Yeah.
What, field hockey?
Yeah. What other hockey is there? Ice hockey.
Well,
Yeah.
It's not ice hockey, is it? But
No,
it'd be
field
field
hockey, yeah. He's also well educated. He read geography at Oxford. So he's a smart bloke as well.
Right.
And also on his CV, he worked for Diageo and he was commercial director for whiskey there. So we'll serve him well up in Scotland, you'd imagine.
Yes, stay tuned for a big commercial partnership between a Scottish whiskey brand and the RNA, yeah?
Your words, not mine, DB, but
The Open, what was next year be the 154th? 153rd?
No, I think it's the 153rd.
153rd next year. Brought to you by Glenfiddich, probably. Stay tuned.
wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, no, it's
Fingers in
interesting.
many
I don't
pies.
really know anything about the bloke or anything. I've not come across him. Obviously, I don't follow rugby. I wasn't aware that he'd done anything with the Olympics. So be interesting to see where he takes golf. Like, although the game of professional golf is a little bit divided at the moment, I would say the general world of golf is at peak popularity, in my opinion, with social media influencers. You've got, all the YouTuber guys, the brands that are emerging. There's in the space that we're in, there's new pop-up small brands every fucking week, which is not enjoyable for us, but there's all sorts of people out there. The influencers, there's new guys popping up on the scene all the time. Professional guys are gaining followings that they've never sort of seen the like of before. I think the US Open, when Bryson won last week, there was record viewership, peaked at like 15 million or something in the States, which was, it's great to see. The overall game of golf is in a good place. It's the professional game that is lacking a bit of unity at the moment.
Yeah.
But whether he will be able to have any influence on any of that, I don't really know. I don't really know what scope that they've got in terms of, speaking on behalf of the other professional bodies. So it'd be interesting to see what he can do for the game, what he can do for the amateur game, as you said, and if there's anything else that he can do to help grow the game, because he seems to have a cracking track record. So it's certainly been interesting from our point of view. I think, let's just see where it takes us as a sport.
Well, as AB said, I mean, he was head of operations at the Olympics, and obviously Northampton have had a great few years and stuff. He's got success after success, so hopefully he can bring that to the world of golf.
Absolutely,
mate. I think that's a good point to round off there, O'Dub. You've got the final say, so well done to you. I think you've done all right today, mate. So we'll have you back. We'll only get better. We'll, you'll start to learn. Yeah, you'll start to learn the game. You'll start to come at us with. I know you're keen as mustard to do quizzes with us about the game. So we look forward to participating in that in the future. And the chemistry will grow as we go.
I think so, Dov. For your first one, it's not bad at all. Thank you for joining. Thanks for coming on board, and more than welcome back next week.
Well, it's my pleasure, lads. Always fantastic to spend the evening with you both, be it virtually. And I look forward to continuing our chats in the future.
Good stuff, mate. Welcome aboard. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you all next week. Well done, O-Dub, pal. Well done, mate.
Well done, mate. Just refine some of the questioning and segues next time.
We'll be there, lad. We'll be there.